oh, this is where I'm at. It was such a load off. And you talk about the other side of fear, like it's like that maximum, you're so scared of a situation and then you just get through and it's like, oh, wow. Like, what was I scared of to begin with? So once you get past that fear of quitting your job, fear of starting your business, fear of what could happen, what could not happen, all this type of stuff, things that could go wrong. Once you get past that, your mind is clear and it's just work time. It's go get it time. When you fear can be like, it can just mess up your whole thoughts when you're just not even operating clearly. You're not even like focused and fully focused on the task at hand of making your business successful. So once you really lose that fear and get control of that fear, and not to say that fear goes away 100%, but what you do learn is how to control that fear and not let it dictate where you're going. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the 9% Show. I am your host, Steven Burton. And here at the 9%, y'all know we keep everything 100. If I haven't done it, not doing it, or not about to do it, it will not come out my mouth. So, well, first of all, like we always do here at the 9%, we go take a toast to the 9%ers out there and those that want to get into the 9% club. Shouts out to y'all too. So toast to y'all. Got my scotch as always. Once they cut a check, I'll let you know what it is. But until then, anyways, we gonna get this thing started. Today we are talking about why I quit my job to start my business. So in the past, we had a previous episode about when to know to quit your job to start a business. But for this particular one, I want to talk about why I quit my job. What forced me to make this move? What decisions went through my head and why I felt like it was necessary for me to quit my job cold turkey. Before I even had a sale, before I had a website up, before I had anything, I quit my job. I quit security. I just left it all and I dived in 100%. So we're going to talk about 5 things there that I feel like when I really think back into my situation, the things that made me want to do it. And the truth of the matter is I'm not expecting everybody that's watching this to quit your job cold turkey, but hey, that's what I did. We keep everything 100 around here. And honestly, I truly believe those that take the biggest risk in life gets the biggest rewards. So it just is what it is. All the successful people I know, they've sacrificed something, they've risked something, they really went for it. And so all I can speak on is what I know. So I do want to put a couple things in context before we really dive deep into this. And just to, though I did not have, like I said, I did not really have the business established, I don't think it's a bad thing to have some type of traction, or just to get some type of signals that you're good to go, that you're good to quit your job. But the flip side of that is like, leaving comfort is a hard thing. And like, will you get to the point where you're making all these just crazy amount of money and everything is just beautiful and no downs at all and everything is just up, straight to the right? I don't know. And if you need all that to quit your job, it's probably going to be a hard time, because even within business for me, like everything ain't always peachy. There's like bad days, good days, and everything in between. So I mean, for me, like I said, I quit my job cold turkey, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about why I did that, okay? So we're going to get into this thing. We're going to talk about number one. And the number one thing is I needed to give it 100%. I needed to fully commit to what I was doing. At that point in my life, I knew I didn't want to work for nobody anymore. And I knew I wanted to start a business. And I knew I could make it happen. But for me, I'm a believer that, some people say, oh, give it 110%, give it 120%. You can only give 100%, and if I want to give myself the best shot to make something happen, I had to fully commit. That was my mentality. It could not be, half stepping. And I'm kind of getting to my second point earlier than I wanted to, but because it kind of shares the same thing. But I truly believe that you need to give whatever you're focused on 100% of your effort. It sucks that things does fall to the wayside, whether it's your relationships, whether it's time with your kids, whether it's, whatever the case may be, you can't give 100% to everybody. You can't give 100% to everything. You need to give your business the best shot. And for me, it was quitting my job to put 100% focus on my business. I knew it was going to take away from things. I knew it was going to take away from my, my presence at home and things like that. I had my first daughter. She was 1 year old at that time when I quit my job cold turkey. I'm married. I had my wife. And so but that 100% effort and that 100% focus on a clear picture of you cannot fail. You cannot fail. That's where I did. And I truly believe if I've had too many situations in the past where literally God just did not let me fail, straight up. I want to believe I got some crazy skill set and things like that, which I probably do, and I'm gonna touch on it in this episode. But the fact of the matter is, I just had to believe that I could make this happen, and I had to give myself 100% effort to make it happen. So that's what the number one thing about why I knew I needed to quit my job. But this easily slips into number two. And number two is just there's no room for half measures. There's no room for half stepping. I knew with this business that I wanted to start that it was not about to be a side hustle. I thought about the business I was creating, and it was like how could I ship stuff to customers? How could I have customer service hours? How could I deal with my vendors? How could I, everything that I needed to do was during business hours, and I couldn't be working for another company during business hours for the hours I needed to operate my business. I knew for my industry and to be e-commerce, and I speak on this all the time, I needed to build that brand trust. And how could I do that if there was no place for a customer to call, or if it took me 2 days to get back to an email, or whatever the case may be? I'm expecting someone to pay $200 a nut for something and really not have a infrastructure that's ready to serve customers. I knew I needed to be full-time. We're here, we're live, we're in business, and that's what I needed to do. The same way I took that brick and mortar hustle to e-commerce. Because if you start a restaurant or something, what are you gonna do? You go work your 9 to 5 and then only start your restaurant at nighttime? Is that what you do? Not to say that can't be done. And some people, have food trucks and get out there and hustle and do what you gotta do. But for me and my situation and for my business to really give it the best shot, it was part of my business plan. It was part of everything I planned out. My thesis of why I thought we could be successful was in the fact of it could not be a side hustle. I just did not know how I could be. I knew I needed an office from day one. I thought could I operate out of my garage? Could I operate out of a storage unit? And it was just I can't really, just the flow and the structure of how I saw my business, I couldn't do it that way. So you might have to, for me, I had to ask myself, could I do this as a side hustle? And the answer was no. And so when the answer was no, I had to trust myself to say, I'm quitting this job. Okay. And that's just where it is. It was just no room for half stepping for this thing. And that's what it was there. Okay. We go move this thing on and we go talk about number 3. And number 3 is I could not fall to fear. Fear is a big thing. Fear, we speak on it a lot. It keeps people in situations, no matter what, not just even in business. I'm talking just life in general. Fear of change, fear of, heck, they got a thing called FOMO, fear of missing out. Fear is such a driver that drives you to certain things. And no matter how much you can be sure of yourself, or trusting yourself or just, thinking real positive thoughts or just know what you're capable of, like that fear is like a tough thing. And my man, Will Smith, man, he had this one quote that I really love. And it was, God placed the best things in life on the other side of terror and maximum fear. Like that quote resonated with me so much because my biggest thing was comfort. I was stuck in this job for comfort. I knew I was gonna get a paycheck every 2 weeks. I knew, I didn't have to worry about paying my bills and all this type of stuff. I just knew my life was structured. But when I thought about quitting my job and taking this leap of faith, it was like pushing down that fear was like so hard. But once I finally did, and I like mounted up the pressure to like really quit my job and walk into my boss's office and say, you know what, I'm leaving. Here's my 2-week notice. I'm out. That 2-week notice turned into like a 2-day notice because he pretty much in essence fired me because he knew I was up to something and he just didn't like it. But that was the biggest freedom I ever had, even before I launched the business. When I talk about bliss, when I talk about happiness, when I talk about just feeling like, oh, this is where I'm at, it was such a load off. And you talk about the other side of fear, like it's like that maximum, you're so scared of a situation and then you just get through and it's like, oh, wow. Like what was I scared of to begin with? So once you get past that fear of quitting your job, fear of starting your business, fear of what could happen, what could not happen, all this type of stuff, things that could go wrong. Once you get past that, your mind is clear and it's just work time. It's go get it time. When you fear can be like it can just mess up your whole thoughts when you're just not even operating clearly. You're not even like focused and fully focused on the task at hand of making your business successful. So once you really lose that fear and get control of that fear, and not to say that fear goes away 100%, but what you do learn is how to control that fear and not let it dictate where you're going. Like I have fear all the time, even to this point. Everything I do is like a calculated risk and more risk and more risk and more fear. But like I felt it before, I know where it's come from, and I'm able to push it back down and keep it pushing. Okay, so don't let fear block from your ultimate goals of success in life, because that's really what it is. All right. All right. The number 4 thing, and let me take a little drink real quick. The number 4 thing we're going to talk about is I trusted my skill set. I trusted me to be me. That's why I felt I could quit my job, because I knew I had the skills. I've done it before. I don't think we've talked on this show yet about, I started my first business right out of high school. I was 18 years old. I started my first e-commerce website, hiphopwear.com, and it took off. And that was straight from my bedroom, and like I've been hustling, making things happen. I went from that. I went into the music industry. I got a gold record. I got all type of credits that we'll talk about on the music side some other time. But everything I've ever done, I ain't even freaking boasting. I done knocked it out the park. And it's just having that confidence in yourself. No job was gonna hold me down. No job was gonna keep me somewhere. I trusted my skill set that I could make it happen. And I told myself, like the first point of these topics, if I gave it 100% and it was no half stepping and it was everything I was given to this business to be successful, if I gave that much energy, when other times I gave it like 50%, or I've always had a job, or I've always had some little thing going on, if I gave this 100% focus, I couldn't make this pop. Me? Somebody done told you wrong, or told myself wrong. Cause like, I just, and this is where you have to have an honest, conversation with yourself, because I'm making this video to give you motivation to do what I've done and to quit your job and to chase your dream. But I'm not being unrealistic here. Like the fact of the matter is I had the skill set. I knew the things that I had to do. I picked e-commerce for a reason. You know what I'm saying? It matched my lifestyle, it matched my skill set. I was able to do it and still operate and live life, and just everything I structured my business to be was around all my strengths. Okay, so that was one of the main reasons. If you don't have that skill set, it becomes a little harder because maybe you need to hire somebody else. Maybe you need to find some partners and things like that. I was a solo founder. I didn't have any partners in what I did. I just said I wanted to do it, and that's what it is. But like I said, I was really good at ecommerce. I was decent at HTML and website coding. I was pretty good at digital designs and things like that. I'm tech savvy. I have a marketing, digital marketing. I just naturally was good at a whole bunch of stuff. So that allowed me to quit my job and feel confident to quit my job. So that's just keeping it real. And that might not be for everybody, but hey, it was for me. And the number 5 thing was a realization that I could no longer be taken advantage of in my life. I could not work the job I was working, now it comes to the point of like any job. I couldn't work any job. But that particular job I had before I quit my job for the final time, the last job I had, it wasn't the most healthiest work environment. You wasn't really celebrated for the things you do and the things you brought to the business. And I mentioned this story several times, but like my final straw was just like the fact that I made the business specifically off my idea, $150,000 in new revenue, and was getting paid the exact same. And it was just like, you know what, man? I ain't about to keep giving this man my ideas. I ain't gonna keep giving him my skills. I ain't gonna keep giving it to nobody. And granted, did I learn some things and how to run a business? Once I really, maybe one day I'll touch on these things, but I worked for a small business at the time, and I was really kind of like my boss's right-hand man at that time. And I was really able to see how a business is ran and just really dive deep into like a small business and really get hands-on experience. But I never looked like I took advantage or ran with somebody's, they trained me and I just left and did my own thing. Like, no. If anything, it was the other way around. Like my natural skill set was going other places. And I just told myself, never again will I allow my natural skills. And again, the one before, I trusted my skill. I had the skill set to be able to do all these things, but I wasn't about to let it go for nothing. Either you was going to have to pay me a whole lot of more money, and maybe you could have kept me, but you didn't, and I'm gone. But I told myself I was no longer about to be taken advantage of, and that's what it was. So, those are the reasons why I felt I needed to quit my job. And like I said, I would just say that if you're on the fence about it, if you're just like, you don't know what to do, look for those signals in life that gives you the green light to do it. Like, don't take those things for granted. Like, okay, maybe you soft launched something and you got, good traction, you got some website hits, or maybe you sold 10 pieces and whatever you need to kind of give you that, like, man, I might be able to do this. Like, do it. Don't be scared of it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And there are some things that can happen when it goes real bad. I ain't gonna front on you. But dang, if you think about it, for me, my thought process was, well, shoot, I go bankrupt and I go get a job. And if anything, my skill set that I've done now, I could put that on my resume and be like, yo, I've done this, I moved to whoop, blah, 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 blah. I was just like, what's the worst? YOLO. You only live once. That's really what it came down to. So you find those small green lights in your life. Find where you really fit in. Find where you really go. And whatever your business is, like, just think of like, okay, if I gave it 100% effort, if I could do this all day, where could I see it go? And the thing about when you do that, though, you also can't cheat yourself. You can't say, oh, I quit my job, then I was on the couch all day, like, I don't feel like working today, I'm gonna work tomorrow. Like, no, when I quit my job, I worked every day, all day. until I was able, probably for about a year and a half before I was able to kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit. And that's the realities of the situation. So we don't fake the funk here. We don't make this stuff sound easy. But at the same time, we don't allow fear to get into our way, all right? So that's us for today. Please, if this resonated with you, like, comment on this video. Please share it to your network. Tell somebody about the 9% show, because we popping over here. We throwing them gems out like it ain't no thing. You know what I'm saying? But till next time, I'll see you later on the 9% show.